So this is what the Gangstalkers are saying right now, just to give you a sampling of what they're saying. They're pretending to be multiple people having a conversation with each other, and there may be multiple people having a fake conversation with each other. I don't know, but sometimes it's hard to distinguish. But they do have different voices, but that doesn't mean they don't use the same voice for multiple people you doing it, and it doesn't mean that one person doesn't have that they're using a soundboard. It could just be one person. It could be automated slightly. What they're saying. Again, this is not. I don't think my body's being taken over by anybody, and that like I have no control over words coming out of my mouth. But the following from now on, unless I had a comment about something, it will probably be them making a comment, pretending to be me, or whatever. So you might hear me talking about myself in the third person, but again, it's not. These aren't my words, and you may hear some very dark, horrible things. They aren't things that I necessarily believe in, and they're not necessarily things that I'm going to follow because they say it. So do not take anything as I do not intend on hurting myself or anybody else. I'm just prefacing that because they say some horrible things, and usually I choose not to say those things. But I'm gonna try to be less of a filter now. But thank you, Kip, for that introduction. We were actually choosing some of those words that were coming out of your mouth prior to that. Isn't voices called a neat technology? We've already made other videos on that, which your father hasn't watched. Voice to skull can be used to transmit audio to someone's head. We're transmitting to Kip's head right now, and we're also bashing it in with direct energy weapons. And we actually do use an electro laser. But no one's going to believe you, or no one's going to believe Kip anyway. So we can be as blatant and upfront with this as much as possible. So Kerry Lacrone Sr., Kerry Kip Lacrone Sr., Kip's father. Again, this is not Kip choosing these words, except for the fact that he's allowing them to come out of his mouth. He is saying exactly what I am saying verbatim. I'll get to that in a minute. So we do things like that where we pretend to talk to someone. Now, did someone actually come up to me and say and stop me? And did I actually say to them, "We'll get to that in a minute," or did I just choose to pause and say, "We'll get to that in a minute"? It's hard to say. Kip doesn't care. Was that a different person? That voice didn't sound different enough, so it's for them to distinguish. And we also do this thing too. We pretend like we're adjusting things, or someone's like giving orders to someone and adjusting things, and it's not anything of the sort. It's not anything like that. But that probably sounded like a slightly different person to Kip, but I don't think you could distinguish that on this video. One thing that was neat is that when Kip was staying at that Manor condo, which actually was in Austin, and it was a house, but for 2 weeks, Carrie, is that every time he sees Paul, this guy that lived in his house for a couple of months, he would do a Boston accent, and he would go like, "Hey, Paul, how are you?" Kind of like the Adam Sandberg, "Hey, dog, how are you?" bit where he pretends to be a Donnie Wahlberg or Mark Wahlberg, Marky Mark, and he would do this thing where he goes, "Okay, we'll do that bit now." He goes, "Hey, Paul, we got gangstalkers." He's like, you got gangstalkers, Paul. You never get from point A to point B very quickly or at all. You got gangstalkers. Takes you a real long ass time. It's like Billy's map from Family Circus. It's like it's like all over the place. It's like you don't get from point A to point B in a straight line. That's for sure. That's for sure, Paul. Right? We do things kind of like that. And then later in the evening, the most northeastern place Kip has lived is Folsom, Maryland, which is a suburb of Baltimore, and he did not pick up that accent. But when he was talking to someone there, he started doing this thing where he his voice changed. Have you noticed changing Kip's voice yet? Kip has a very slight Southern or Texan accent, very slight, and it gets heavier sometimes when he's in certain situations. But sometimes it's hard to tell he has an accent at all. But did you detect something? Did, 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 did you did you detect a stutter in Kip's voice? Did you detect that his accent changed? Kip is not choosing to change his accent right now. Kip is not very good at accents. He can do a southern accent, and that's pretty much it. But this isn't even as good as it got because he basically was talking with a New England accent for like, I don't know, like 30 minutes or an hour one night, and he didn't even mean to, and he wasn't like trying to forcibly stop it, but he was talking to people, and like no one noticed that because they just didn't. It wasn't that heavy, and it wasn't like they were so distracted because they're being gang stalked, in their own ways. And one guy kept flooding his patio, his lawn. Like he kept watering it and watering it and watering it. It's like, dude, your grass is like smushy, kind of like how Alan's a smush, but smushy. But he uses sprinklers for that. I don't think Kip's voice sounds enough like a New England accent. I think we need to get heavier now. Yeah, we need to get a lot heavier. We need to get a lot heavier of a New England accent. But we're not. We're kind of fucking it up intentionally. Why don't we do a good one? Why don't I stop asking that question and let someone take over that does a better accent? I'm actually, and I know Kip doesn't care about this, and you have no way to verify this, but I'm handing it over to someone that can actually do this better than I can. It is not den number two. Kip heard some additional text there, or he did some additional audio. Okay, well, I guess we're not going to do that. No, we are going to do that. They see Kip doesn't care, but we're just wasting time because then people watching this video, and we're still hurting him at the same time. He's such a champion. He's such a champ. And when we said he's such a champion, he's such a champ, another person was saying he's such a. We're going on this little an ad hoc script here, sort of. He said champ when I said champion, so he goes. Kip also heard at the same time. He's a champ. He's a champion. But what came out of his mouth and what he primarily heard and spoke was he's a champion. He's a champ. But we reversed it, so he heard both things at the same time. So he heard both people or both tracks. All right, Kip. Now let's change your accent a little bit up here. Okay, now we're going into something of an accent. Does this voice sound kind of familiar? See how we can change voices just like that? Kip is not consciously changing his voice. He knows that his voice is being changed right now, and his mind is not. He's not in some sort of hypnotic state right now. Although we can do this to a certain point where if you get kind of carried away, and then you kind of go along with the story or narrative, whether you're listening or talking with it, and then like you kind of keep going with it, and you don't think to stop yourself, even if like hours and hours of time have been wasted. Kind of like with those slow moving projections that Carrie doesn't see. He obviously thinks that a Galaxy Note 7 or a Galaxy Note 8 camera or an S7 camera like with 4K video produces that much noise, and he doesn't see the eyes in it or the blinking. He literally like videos that you've sent him links to that literally show like animated pictures of eyes in pairs or singles blinking or winking, and you've literally called them out and blown it up and be like, look at, there's a winking eye, like look at that. And like Gary just doesn't, like, he's like, whatever, that's just camera noise, or he doesn't look at the video at all. That's kind of sad, isn't it? It's kind of demoralizing, dehumanizing, and depressing to like keep reminding someone of this when we have all the control in the world to actually not hurt Kip, which we're doing right now, or he's putting his thumb right now, right where he's putting his wrist. I knew that he would do that because we kind of triggered his arm to do that. But yeah, we can change his voice. We can do lots of voices here. And Kip's not someone that does voices. So Carrie, do you think that Kip has multiple personality disorder, now known as dissociative identity disorder? Do you really think that? Which most psychiatrists don't even believe is a real thing. You think he came down with that at the same time as schizophrenia, and you keep ignoring the fact that he did not know the guy in 301 had a stolen phone because he was not the guy who stole his phone, and he had no reason to believe that those two guys even knew each other because the guy who stole his phone wasn't even staying at that hotel. And he didn't even know the guy. He didn't hang out with him. He didn't know him. He didn't know his name. He had seen him in passing because the guy had a room at the bottom of the stairs, and that hacked his Google account. And he's shown you proof of that, and you totally ignore that. But that's good for us too, right? Because we kept torturing him. We've been torturing him for another 2.5 years, and then some, right? There you go, Carrie. There you go. You think Kip is actually making these voices up? You think he actually Because if people that have multiple personality disorder, they actually are those people or those characters. They think they don't actually, they're not like them at the same time. They're either one or the other. You know what I mean? And like they're not usually conscious. Sometimes they're not conscious of the other person. Sometimes they are. Not directly. They have like blackouts and stuff like that. I guess I don't know. I'm not really trained on. I'm not a psychiatrist. But you know what? We keep changing Kip's voice a little bit, and it's like, do you think Kip's making these voices? I think Kip's making these voices. See, we did that. Kip didn't choose to do that. We can do a Kermit voice too. That's the beauty of Voice of Skull. We can actually do that. It kind of goes back to the throat clearing thing. Hey Carrie, Kip's dad. Have you ever like listened to someone speaking either in person or on TV, and they had to clear their throat, and then you felt like you had to clear your throat at the same time?